Israel's amazing transformation. Discover the hidden truth of God's people revealed in the Bible. Mariah sat on the creaky attic steps, the dust swirling around her like forgotten dreams. She could hear her two children, Jacob and Lily, laughing downstairs, an echo of joy in a home weighed down by worry. A single mother, she juggled 3 jobs, each more exhausting than the last. But her true refuge was hidden in the pages of her worn-out Bible. Each night, she turned to its sturdy spine, hoping to bury wisdom beneath her children's hearts, whispering stories of faith into their sleepy ears as she rummaged through boxes. One particular item caught her eye, an ornately decorated Bible, its leather cover adorned with intricate patterns. It belonged to her late grandmother, a woman who had faced shadows with a steadfast spirit. The moment Mariah brushed the dust away, it felt as if the pages had awakened from a deep slumber. Swelling with anticipation, Mariah opened it, revealing a treasure trove of handwritten notes, reflections laced with hope and strength, stirring something dormant within her. But life in her quaint Georgia suburban neighborhood was no storybook. It was filled with quiet judgment and whispered prejudices. Just the week before, at church, she had felt the cold stares of fellow attendees, their eyes reflecting the unspoken truth. They underestimated her. It was a freeze that came from long-held beliefs about what a family should look like, and she could see it in their faces when they spoke of real values, as if her love and struggle were somehow less worthwhile. The community hung like a ripe fruit ready to fall, teetering on the brink of change. Rumors had begun to swirl about a powerful developer planning to bulldoze their homes for a shiny shopping complex. Anxiety crackled in the air like an electric current. Residents exchanged worried glances, knowing this battle could tear their lives apart. Fueled by the words from her grandmother's Bible, Mariah found purpose. Gathering the courage from her heritage, she stepped into the fray, her heart pounding. "Let us come together," she spoke, her voice steady as she rallied her neighbors. "We can fight for our homes. We are more than just benefits of real estate." The words were both a challenge and a prayer, a call for unity in a divided moment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Come the town hall meeting, the room buzzed with discontent. Mariah stood, the heirloom Bible clutched to her chest, her pulse thrumming in her ears. She drew a deep breath, its pages beckoning her to speak. "As we face this wall of change," she declared, "let's lean on one another. Our stories are woven into these streets. Together, we can define our future." Her heartfelt narrative began unwrapping the tension, shedding light on their shared struggles and victories. An unexpected ally emerged, a wealthy businessman who, recognizing the potential for cooperation, offered a hand. Yet doubt lingered in the shadows, a whisper of separation growing louder, just as her own fears bubbled up from within. As the night stretched on, someone shared their own tale filled with struggle and resilience. Mariah felt a spark ignite inside her, the hope that perhaps a grassroots movement could unify them in every hardship. They found threads connecting their lives. But would they confront the division tearing them apart? Would the fears be addressed or ignored in a whirlwind of conflict? With emotions raw and determined hearts ready for the fight ahead, Mariah felt the awakening was only just beginning. What would it take for them to unite, and could they truly harness the strength in their differences to forge a future together? The next morning dawned with a reluctant brightness. Mariah could hear birds chirping outside, their songs stark against the somber reality of her small kitchen. She poured herself a cup of coffee, the steam swirling upward, mirroring the thoughts clashing in her mind. Last night had been a turning point, but deep down, doubts loomed like dark clouds, threatening to rain on her newfound courage. Jacob and Lily's laughter floated in from the living room, a sweet reminder of what she was fighting for. "You've got this, Mom," she whispered to herself as she glanced at the ornate Bible resting on the table. Each note penned by her grandmother felt charged with purpose, a bridge connecting Mariah's struggles to those of the past. Determined to rally the neighborhood once more, she grabbed a notepad. "We need a plan," she scribbled, brainstorming ideas about meetings, community forums, and protests. But with each idea, uncertainty crept back, and would anyone truly join her cause? "Hey, Mom," Jacob called from the other room, breaking her concentration. "Can we go to the park today? Please?" Mariah hesitated. A part of her wanted to say yes, to relish in their innocence, and forget the heaviness of adult worries. But there was another part, a voice whispering that every moment spent away from advocating was time given to the developers, time that could be spent building their fight. "Let us all go. I'll pack a picnic," she replied, forcing a smile. Together, they packed sandwiches and fruit, laughter mingling with the clatter of plates and napkins. As they walked to the park, Mariah breathed deeply, taking in the sun-drenched path that had seen countless such family outings. At the park, children played, and laughter bounced off the trees like a melody. Mariah spread out the blanket and watched her children take off towards the swings. For a moment, her heart lightened, basking in the joy of their childhood, but it didn't last long. A figure approached a neighbor named Mrs. Collins, her brow furrowed with concern. "Mariah," she said, her voice shaky, "you spoke so passionately at the meeting last night. Didn't you feel the energy?" Mariah replied, brightening with hope. "I did," Mrs. Collins sighed, her gaze drifting to the ground. "But what if it's too late? The developers have powerful friends. I heard they've already begun planning." The words cut like a knife. Mariah's heart raced. She used the moment to keep her resolve steady. "We can't let fear shut us down. We have to be louder together." Just then, Jacob came running, his cheeks flushed and full of excitement. "Mom, can we have a race?" "Not now, sweetie," she said, still focused on Mrs. Collins. But Jacob's voice echoed, pure and free. "Please? Just a quick one." Mariah paused, torn between the harsh reality of their struggle and the innocent joy of her son. "Okay," she said, the smile returning to her heart. "Just a quick race." As they ran, laughter rang through the park, a reminder of resilience cloaked in simplicity. But as Mariah glanced back towards Mrs. Collins, the doubt returned, heavier now. That evening, she lay in bed, 1,000 questions swirling through her mind. What if they failed? What if they lost everything? Those fears shadowed her, growing louder under the weight of uncertainty. She brushed her thumbs across her grandmother's Bible, feeling the warmth of faith coursing through her fingertips. How much effort would it take to push back against what seemed inevitable? And did they truly have the fire to fight together, or were the bonds too frayed to hold? Tomorrow, she would find out. But first, she needed a rest. With a heart full of questions and a head swirling with doubt, Mariah drifted into sleep, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond their neighborhood, one that would challenge everything they held dear. The sun leaked through the curtains the next morning, a little too cheerful for Mariah's taste. She sat up slowly, the remnants of doubt clinging to her like morning fog. Determination flickered within her, but the shadows from the previous night still loomed. She needed support. She needed action. She made her way to the kitchen. Jacob bounded in, already buzzing with energy. "Mom, can we make pancakes? The big ones." He chirped, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Mariah couldn't help but smile. "Yes, the biggest pancakes." They measured out the ingredients together, flour dusting the counter like soft snow. While they whisked the batter, each mix brought clarity to her jumbled thoughts. "Jacob," she started, flipping the pan over the stove, "do you think our friends and neighbors will want to help us to fight for the park?" He paused, his small brow furrowing in concentration. "I think so. They love playing there. Maybe we should ask them." Mariah's heart swelled. "You're right. Let us have a gathering tomorrow." The idea blossomed an assembly where their voices could rise together against the tide of doubt threatening to drown them. After breakfast, she took Jacob and Lily on a walk around the neighborhood, their laughter punctuating the cool morning air. Mariah's mind whirred with plans. The park was more than swings and slides. It was a home for their dreams, a sanctuary for their community. She wanted everyone to feel that urgency, that undeniable pull to protect what was theirs on their way back. They bumped into Mr. Thompson, an elderly man known for his grumpy demeanor. "What is all this fuss about?" he grumbled, adjusting his glasses as he surveyed the children. Mariah took a breath and launched in her fervor. "We're having a community gathering to discuss the developers threatening the park. We need everyone's help." To her surprise, Mr. Thompson's frown softened. "The park is the only green we have left. I remember when my kids used to play there." "I'll think about it, dear." As they returned home, Mariah felt a flicker of hope. Maybe if she reached out far enough, she could ignite the same fire in others. That evening, she sat in her living room, pen in hand, drafting flyers. Each word felt like a promise, a call to arms. "Protect our park," she wrote, her heart hammering with the thrill of possibility. But as she glanced at the clock, she felt that pang of panic again. What if no one showed up? What if she had built this moment only to have it crumble into dust? Jacob interrupted her thoughts as he walked in holding Lily's hand. "Can we help, Mom?" His voice was filled with sincerity. "Of course," Mariah said, her heart racing. "We all have a part to play." Together, they colored the flyers, adding cheerful drawings beneath the text. In those moments, doubt began to fade, replaced with the glimmers of unity. Just as they were finishing, the doorbell rang. Mariah rushed to the door, heart leaping. Standing there was Mrs. Collins again, looking more determined than Mariah had ever seen her. "I've come to help," Mrs. Collins said earnestly, waving a stack of her own flyers. "We can do this together, Mariah. I've spoken to a few others. They're in." Tears prickled at the corners of Mariah's eyes. This was at her resolve solidified. But just as hope wrapped around her like a warm blanket, she remembered Mrs. Collins's earlier doubt. What if the developers had more plans than anyone knew? "Okay, we gather tomorrow, but we need to be loud. We need to be prepared," Mariah said, newfound energy surging through her. As they began to strategize, an unsettling sense of urgency filled the air, a promise of the battle ahead. Would this be enough? With the gathered flyers strewn across the table, Mariah felt a mix of anticipation and fear. This fight was just beginning, but could they really resist the power looming over their cherished park? Tomorrow would reveal everything. Would it be a day of triumph or despair? Only time would tell. The sun peeked through the curtains again, casting its warm fingers over Mariah's sleepy face. She lay in bed for a moment, soaking in the day ahead. Today was not just another day. It would be a turning point. A new resolve washed over her as she rose. The fear of the unknown replaced by a steady pulse of hope. In the kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee wafted through the air. Jacob, ever the early riser, was already pouring a bowl of cereal, while Lily played with her favorite doll on the floor. Mariah felt a swell of gratitude for these two little beacons of light in her life. They grounded her, acted as reminders of why she was fighting so hard. "Big day today, huh?" she said, pouring milk over Jacob's cereal. He looked up, his face brightening with a smile. "Yeah, we're going to save the park," he exclaimed, his hands full of soggy cereal. "And everyone else coming to help." Lily chimed in, obliviously enthusiastic. Mariah couldn't help but laugh. Their innocence fueled her determination, and she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. After breakfast, they dressed quickly and went outside. The air was fresh and invigorating, brushing against Mariah's skin and lifting her spirits higher. She stepped into her yard, taking a moment to breathe in her surroundings. The neighborhood seemed alive, and she could see neighbors starting to stir. It would be a day like no other. As they walked down the street, they spotted Mrs. Collins and Mr. Thompson setting up a table by the park entrance. "Look, Mom, they're already here," Jacob said, tugging at Mariah's hand in excitement. Let us go and help, she replied, their pace quickening as they approached. The sight of those who had come together brought tears to her eyes. But these weren't tears of doubt. They were tears of fierce hope. "Morning, Mariah," Mrs. Collins greeted. "We figure we'd set up a small sign-in table. People can leave their email addresses so we can organize better." She glanced at Jacob and Lily. "And we made flyers for the kids to hand out." "Perfect," Mariah replied, feeling a buzz of motivation. She joined them in folding the colorful flyers while Jacob and Lily started spreading them through the nearby homes, their voices chirping with enthusiasm. Gradually, neighbors began to trickle in, some carrying their own handmade signs, others clutching banners. As the gathering grew, so did Mariah's confidence. Each familiar face offered her a little more courage. Soon, Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, standing on a nearby park bench to voice his presence. "People have forgotten what this park means to us," he called out. "It's where friendships were formed and memories created. We need to stand together." He flashed a rare smile that seemed to ignite something in the crowd. Cheering erupted from the group, more fervent than she had anticipated. Mariah's heart raced, and she felt the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. She knew that everyone was counting on her and the plans they had made together, but in that moment, she was lifted by the energy surrounding her. "Okay, everyone," Mariah shouted, her voice gaining strength. "Let us share our stories. Why does this park matter to us?" As people began to speak, parents, children, elders, each story seemed to weave a richer tapestry of their community's South love for the park. A little boy shared how he learned to ride his bike there, while an elderly woman reminisced about her late husband teaching her grandchildren how to fly kites. The unity was palpable, but in the back of her mind, the fear nagged her. What if their love wasn't enough to stop the developers? Just as she was about to dwell on that thought, Jacob squeezed her hand. His small gesture cut through her worries. He believed. "Let us do this," she shouted to the crowd. "Let us show them just how much this park means to us." As they began to chant and rally, a shadow in the distance caught her eye. A sleek black car pulled up, looming ominously at the edge of the park. Mariah felt her stomach drop as a man in a crisp suit stepped out, holding a clipboard. What was he doing here? Did he come to shut them down before they could even start? The crowd hushed as all eyes turned towards the new arrival, each heart thumping in unison. What happened next? Would they be able to stand their ground, or would their efforts crumble right before them? Mariah's heart raced as the man approached. He walked with an air of authority, clipboard in hand, surveying the gathering with calculating eyes. Anxiety rippled through the crowd like a shockwave, the excitement palpable just moments ago replaced by a heavy dread. "Who is that?" whispered Mrs. Collins, clutching her homemade sign that read, "Save Our Park." Mariah wished she had an answer. The uninvited presence felt like a storm cloud hovering over them. "Everyone, just stay calm," Mariah urged, her voice barely above a whisper. She took a deep breath, trying to banish the fear coursing through her. What would he want? Did he really have the power to end everything they had fought for? The man approached Mr. Thompson, who seemed to square his shoulders, ready to confront whatever challenge lay ahead. Murmurs spread through the crowd as the tension thickened, faces reflecting worry, anger, and uncertainty. "Excuse me, folks," the man began, his voice smooth yet cutting. "I'm here on behalf of the developers interested in this land." A shiver went through Mariah. "I need to ask what is going on and why you're all gathered here today." Mr. Thompson stepped forward. "We're here to save our park, sir," he declared, a firmness in his tone that belied the panic in the crowd. "This space means everything to us. It's more than just land. It's our community." Mariah felt a flicker of hope at Mr. Thompson's words. Perhaps they could appeal to whatever humanity he had left. The man's gaze hardened. "I appreciate your passion, but the plans have already been submitted. This development is going forward." He paused, glancing at the clipboard as if he were assessing their determination. "Now, if we could just find a way to make this work for both parties, what do you mean?" Mariah stepped forward, her voice trembling yet resolute. "This isn't just a negotiation. You can't put a price on memories or community spirit. The crowd nodded in agreement, a chorus of soft yes building in strength. Mariah felt a spark ignite within her. This wasn't just about a park. It was about voices being heard, about standing up when it seemed every ounce of hope was being stripped away. But behind the man's composed exterior, she sensed a glimmer of uncertainty, as if her words had sparked something beyond industry and profit. Could she show him the soul of this place? "Let us show you what this park truly means to us," Mariah said, her heart pounding with each word. "Come and hear the stories that every single person here has to share. You might see it differently if you truly understand its value." A beat of silence fell over the crowd. Then, slowly, a glimmer of curiosity spread across some faces. The man raised an eyebrow, as though taken aback by her challenge. "Fine," he said, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "You get 10 minutes. If I'm not convinced, this project moves ahead." A collective gasp rippled through the group, but Mariah felt a sense of triumph. It was a small window, but she had seized it. As the man's gaze swept over the crowd, she could see people brimming with stories, the weight of their emotions evident. "Who wants to go first?" Mariah called out, and several voices rose at once. With each story shared, the man shifted, his posture slightly less rigid, a spark lighting in his eyes. The energy transformed, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. This was their chance, but even as they spoke, uncertainty fractured through Mariah's thoughts. Would one man's heart really change in a matter of minutes? Could their voices be strong enough to challenge the powerful tides of development? Just then, a familiar face stepped through the crowd. It was Lily, her small figure standing tall despite the chaos. "Mom," she called out, holding up her favorite doll. "Is this park really worth fighting for?" Mariah's heart melted at the simplicity of her daughter's question. It echoed her own fears and hopes with clarity. The man turned towards Lily, eyebrows raised, the skepticism flickering in his eyes. Would he see the truth reflected in a child's innocence? As the crowd waited, perched on the precipice of hope, Mariah knew they were standing at a crossroads. One small gesture, one moment could define everything. Would they rally together, or would the promise they fought for slip away beneath their fingers? The next words might change everything. Lily's innocent question hung in the air, a clear beacon cutting through the tension. Mariah held her breath, studying the man's face for any sign of softening. It was as if time had slowed. Is it worth fighting for? The question lingered. The man's shoulders relaxed just a fraction, but was it enough? Mariah stepped forward again, her eyes locking onto his. "Yes, it is." Her voice was steadier now, buoyed by the fervor of the crowd behind her. "This park isn't just grass and trees. Its laughter echoing through the playground, the freedom to run and play, space for family gatherings, and the memorials of sweet summer nights with friends." Mr. Thompson chimed in, his tone resolute. "This park is our history. It's where we built connections, where generations have created joy. Destroying it means erasing who we are." The man shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his clipboard, his expression complicated. He didn't seem wholly immune to the power of their words. Around them, faces leaned forward, hungry for any glimmer of understanding, the crowd vibrating with the shared hope that change was possible. "I remember coming here as a kid," he said hesitantly, the admission startling even him. "It was different then. A simpler time. I felt safe." "Exactly," Mariah continued, the spark of connection igniting her with renewed energy. "Think of how many children, like my Lily, have grown up here, playing tag, catching fireflies. This park is a sanctuary, a reflection of us as a community. We can't put a price tag on that." A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd, some people nodding in agreement, others exchanging glances, buoyed by the realization that their cherished memories resonated beyond personal experience. The man looked around, his clipboard forgotten for a moment. As he took it all in, Lily, clutching her doll tighter, took a breath like she was about to speak. "Can we keep it? Can you see it, please? Our laughter, Her big eyes shone brightly as she gazed up at him, sincerity radiating in her small voice. He hesitated, a struggle visible on his face. Was he really considering their plea? Marriages, laughter, heartaches, victories sharing those moments piled upon each other, a mountain of stories stretching toward the man. And then, out of the corner of her eye, Mariah noticed Mrs. Collins, holding her handcrafted sign high, tears glistening on her cheeks as she added her own story about her late husband, who had planted the very trees the children climbed. "Every corner here holds a piece of us," Mrs. Collins added. "We won tea, let it go without a fight." Just like that, it was as if the whole community surged forward with interconnected hearts, their histories weaving a tapestry around the man. They were no longer just individuals fighting for a cause. They were a family standing united, unbreakable in their devotion to this shared dream. As he opened his mouth to respond, a fire truck siren blared in the distance, cutting through the moment like a knife. A low rumble of uncertainty filled the crowd again. "What if the decision is already made?" Mariah whispered, dread washing over her. What if they were grasping at a victory that had already slipped away? 10 minutes. The man began again, his voice firmer than before. "I need suddenly." A loud crash echoed through the park, followed by frantic voices. Mariah's heart raced as the commotion broke the hush that had fallen. What was happening? She turned just in time to see a car skidding on the gravel path, the screech of tires striking a chord of panic in her gut. "Mom," Lily called, her little voice trembling. "What is going on?" "Stay close," Mariah shouted, fiercely protective. The stakes had grown higher, a reminder of what they were fighting for. Yes, the crowd gasped. The man's expression shifted. Was that shock beginning to creep into his steady demeanor? In that moment, Mariah felt an electric connection, universe-wide crackle around them. This wasn't just about land anymore. It was about the people, the lives intertwined in fractional chaos, and they needed one another now more than ever. Would this moment of uncertainty turn into clarity, or would they lose their chance to save their park forever? The screeching of tires faded into a heavy silence, the air thick with tension. Mariah's heart raced as she clutched Lily's hand tighter. She could see the car, a blur of metal and paint, veering dangerously close to the old oak tree. People sprang into action, yelling for everyone to get back, their urgency slicing through the numbness that had settled in. "Stay right here," Mariah shouted to Lily, her voice firm yet filled with an underlying tremor of fear. She turned her attention to the scene unfolding before her. A few brave souls rushed towards the vehicle, their concern for the strangers inside overshadowing their own safety. The man's clipboard dropped from his grasp, forgotten in the wave of chaos. Mariah caught a glimpse of him, struggling with his emotions, the burden of his decision weighing heavily on him, amplified by the sudden terror blossoming right in front of them. How could this be happening now? Mariah thought, panic clawing at her insides. The park, their sanctuary, was now entwined with a perilsome reality. Lily tugged at her arm, eyes wide in fear. "Mom, I'm scared." Her voice trembled, innocent and confused. It shattered Mariah's momentary resolve. "I know, sweetheart," she whispered, kneeling down to meet her daughter's gaze. "But we're right here together, okay? We're safe as long as we stick together." In the background, voices rose in a cacophony. Someone was calling for an ambulance, while others were directing people away from the scene, their faces reflecting a mix of fear and determination. Yet, even as fear thrummed in the air, Mariah felt a flicker of something else in her chest, a surge of unity. Young and old, neighbors themselves were moving as one, driven by the instinct to protect. Mariah caught Mrs. Collins' eye across the chaos. The older woman stayed upright, her face a picture of bravery. With shaking hands, Mrs. Collins lifted her sign higher, as if affirming the collective strength they needed now more than ever. "You're not alone," Mrs. Collins shouted, her voice piercing through the murmur of worry. "We're all in this together. We're here for you." Her words brought a wave of affirmation, And it struck Mariah how this moment, this crisis, could be the very catalyst they needed to fight harder for their park. The man they had implored for a decision on their beloved green space now witnessed something powerful, a community ready to defend not just memories, but lives. The screeching tires, the crash, it was all a harsh reminder that life was fragile, but it also served to ignite something fiercely protective in all of them. A man from the crowd, his shirt stained with sweat and dirt, rushed forward, kneeling beside the car, checking on the driver inside. "Can you hear me?" he shouted. "You're going to be okay." Every beat of Mariah's heart seemed synced with the chaos. This was the reason they couldn't let the park go. It wasn't the grass beneath their feet or the swings that squeaked. It was the people who shared those moments together. The unknowns were looming, and she needed to find a way to rally the crowd, to secure their fight's purpose in the wake of this sudden alarm. Just as Mariah exhorted herself to step forward, a faint cry echoed from the car. There was someone stuck. "Help! Please, someone help us!" A woman screamed, her voice rising in desperation. Mariah's breath caught, and instinct kicked in like a bolt of lightning. "We need to go." She turned to the man, catching his bewildered eyes. "Help me. We can't just stand here. We have to do something." He nodded, urgency flooding his features, while the rest of the community stood at the ready, all interlinked through the commitment to uphold each other in these frightening moments. The revolving wheel of doubt turned in Mariah's mind. Had they just witnessed their fears materialize? Or would this also be the moment they found clarity? "Together," she spoke louder now, "we can save her, and in doing so, we can save the heart of this community." As they surged forward, adrenaline coursing through her, a spark ignited within Mariah. This was not merely a struggle for a park anymore. It was a fight for their lives. Would they bond together to face this impending crisis and let it fuel their fight to save what they treasured? Or would this be the moment that dashed their hopes for good? The crowd surged like a wave, responding to Mariah's call. It was as if the shock had ignited a primal urge to act. Together they moved between the murmur of distress and the calls for urgent support, every person beginning to realize they held a thread of life in their hands. Lily tugged on Mariah's sleeve, her brows knitted in worry. "Mom, wait." But Mariah felt only the heat of determination, urging her onward. She pulled Lily close. "Stay with me. I want to let go." They pushed through the throng, the air buzzing with cries and commands. Each step was heavy but laced with a surge of hope. The car now loomed ahead of them, a twisted relic of danger, smoke swirling from the engine. Two men, rugged and focused, desperately pulled at the passenger door, but it wouldn't budge that Mariah's heart clenched. The faint cry from within haunted her. The driver must be terrified. It wasn't just about saving the park anymore. Lives were at stake. "On three," one of the men said, his face slick with sweat. They positioned themselves, ready to hoist the door one final time. But Mariah couldn't just watch. They needed an extra push, and she knew just how to give it. "Wait, let me help," she shouted. The men turned, confusion flickering in their eyes, but Mariah pressed on. "If we all pull together, we can do this." They nodded, and she joined them at the door. The crowd hushed as they all breathed in unison, their will blending into one solid force. 1, 2, 3. Together, they tugged with all their might, muscle and determination amplified by sheer human spirit. The door groaned, and then, finally, it swung open. Inside, Mariah gasped, the sight horrifying yet electrifying. A woman, pale and trembling, was slumped against the wheel. Blood trickled from her forehead, but her eyes, wide with fear, locked on the faces of those who had come to help. For a split second, their eyes connected, frozen in a moment of understanding. They were all fighting for survival, all together in this struggle. "Can you hear me?" Mariah steadied her voice, trying to soothe the turmoil. "Help me." The woman gasped, her voice shaky and weak. "I can't get out." The men quickly checked for obvious injuries. "We need to hold her neck, no sudden movements." One shouted, his hands trembling. "Just a little more," Mariah urged, tension flooding the air. "We're going to get you out." Suddenly, she felt small fingers tugging at her pant leg. "Mom, I'm scared," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible above the rising chaos. Mariah knelt beside her daughter, urgency mixed with love. "I know, baby, but look, we're helping her, and she needs us. That's what being a family is all about." Lily's eyes glistened with tears, but she nodded, her fear melting into resolve. Together, they formed a boundary of safety around the trapped woman, like a human shield against her pain. With one final push, they eased the woman from the vehicle, cradling her carefully. The crowd erupted into supportive shouts, their collective spirit a buoy against despair. In those moments, Mariah could feel the power of community, the love that transcended fear. As the woman was brought to safety, the first sound of sirens pierced the air. Relief cascaded through the crowd like a wave. Yet, in that moment, Mariah also felt a twinge of uncertainty again. Would this be enough? But the spark ignited within her wouldn't be extinguished. They had done more than just save a life today. They had reminded each other of their strength, fueling the fire to protect not just the park, but the bonds that united them. As the paramedics arrived, a mix of gratitude and determination surged in Mariah's chest. They had faced fear head-on and emerged stronger together. Would their bond withstand future challenges? Or would the realities of life once again test their resolve? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting shadows over the park. In that fading light, the kindling of hope burned brighter than ever. A new fight was on the horizon, one that could change everything. The air still crackled with the aftermath of their effort. Mariah felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with a profound exhaustion. The crowd slowly began to disperse as sirens wailed closer, a bittersweet reminder that help was finally here. But amidst that whirl of motion, her heart remained anchored to the woman they had saved, now being gently laid on a stretcher. "Mom, is she going to be okay?" Lily's voice trembled, breaking through the murmur of the crowd, and Mariah quickly turned to her, squeezing her hand tighter. "I hope so, sweetheart. We did everything we could." Her voice was steady, though uncertainty coiled in her stomach. The woman had looked so fragile, her life flickering like a candle in the wind. A paramedic motioned for Mariah and Lily to step back, giving them space as he crouched beside the woman. The world faded for a moment, leaving only the memories of the chaos they had just waded through. How, together, they had contributed to the great, trembling heartbeat of humanity. Yet, as the heavy reality loomed over her, Mariah felt another wave of responsibility wash over her. "Mom, I'm so glad we helped her," Lily said quietly, her eyes now bright with fascination instead of fear. She was starting to see the beauty in community, in acting together for a common purpose. As they watched the paramedics work, Mariah knew this moment would mark something significant for her daughter. Each heartbeat, each tug of hope, threaded into a lesson that would linger longer than today. The world felt a little wider, more connected. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from further down the street. A car had collided with a tree, the sound ricocheting like a gunshot in the stillness. Instinctively, Mariah's body tensed. That unmistakable rush of fear threatened to eat away at her resolve. "Stay close," she said, feeling overwhelmed by the sudden chaos. But then she felt the tug on her sleeve again. Lily was looking up at her with eyes full of curiosity, a spark of bravery igniting within her. "Mom, what happened over there?" Mariah hesitated. "It looks like maybe someone needs help again." The sound of distant voices carried through the air. Shouts, cries for assistance. The tension intensified the longer she stood there. They had just faced one emergency. Could they afford to dive into another? Lily squeezed her hand tighter, grounding Mariah's spiraling thoughts. That little squeeze reminded her that every challenge faced together only strengthened their bond. "Let us go see if they need us," Mariah said, surprising even herself. The uncertainty, the fear, they all faded just a little. As they approached the scene, the sight was nothing short of overwhelming. Another crowd had formed, people moving quickly with purpose. A woman sat on the grass, her hands cradling her head, blood trickling between her fingers. Mariah felt her insides twist. Just then, she spotted a familiar face among the crowd, a man from the park board who had always seemed distant, disconnected. But here he was, rushing toward the woman, a sense of urgency etched across his features. "Someone call 911. He yelled, and in that moment, Mariah saw both fear and determination in his eyes. Her heart raced. Could they save another life today? Was she truly ready to step up again, pushing and pulling not just for the woman on the grass, but for a whole community's resilience? Lily looked up at her, that mix of trust and expectation shining brightly. "Mom, I want to help." A rush of warmth filled Mariah's chest. The decision struck clear in her mind. "Then we will," she said with newfound conviction. Together, they moved forward, once again becoming part of something larger than themselves. What challenges would they face next? What would they discover about themselves and each other along the way? Mariah could feel the tension and promise crackling in the air, igniting their next purpose. With one determined breath, they stepped further into the scene, ready to embrace whatever came next. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an orange glow over the park that had become their battleground of hope. Mariah looked around at her community, faces marked by sweat and worry, yet shining with a shared spirit. Today, they had rallied together like never before, and she felt the pulse of determination thrumming through the crowd as the sirens waned into the distance. Mariah stepped forward, her heart racing. The scene of chaos had transformed into a stage of resilience, and she needed to seize this moment. "Listen, everyone," she called out, her voice cutting through the lingering tension. "What we did today showed us how strong we are together. We've already taken the first steps toward preserving this park, our home." The crowd quieted, attentively leaning in as they registered her words. Jacob and Lily stood at her side, eyes wide with pride. Mariah knelt down to her children. "You both helped save a life today. You showed bravery, and that counts more than anything." Lily beamed, a light reflecting the new understanding in her heart. "Can we keep helping, Mom?" A wave of emotion rippled through Mariah. "Absolutely, sweetie. This isn't over," she said emphatically, straightening to face the crowd again. "This park is more than just a place. It's our past and our future. We can't let it be taken away so easily." But it's not just about words. We need to take action. The murmurs shifted from uncertainty to excitement as people exchanged glances, embers of camaraderie igniting between neighbors once divided. Mariah felt the warmth move through her, feeding her resolve. They had faced darkness together, and such moments defined them more than the struggles alone. Mariah took a pause, letting the moment settle. "Let us have a proper meeting tomorrow. We'll gather ideas, plan protests, and let everyone know just how much this park means to us. We'll raise our voices until they can't ignore us." Cheers erupted, an electric chorus echoing around. Marley couldn't help but feel a well of joy swell in her chest. She had watched them go from worry to empowerment. They were starting to believe again. "Look," Mr. Thompson raised his hand, inspiring attention as he spoke. "If we can stand together like this, then we can tackle anything, be it developers or anything else life throws our way." And just like that, the stories poured forth, each thread wrapping them tighter together. Mrs. Collins spoke about planting flowers with her husband. Jacob recounted the laughter of children playing around, and the crowd chimed in with memories, visions, and dreams for the future they wanted to nurture right in their beloved park. As the gathering of voices melded into a beautiful tapestry, Mariah felt the pulse of change. They weren't merely fighting for land. They were reclaiming their identity. Unity surged through them, igniting a fire that couldn't be extinguished. With the sun setting behind them, casting long shadows, Mariah smiled. "Together, we are unstoppable," she declared. "We may face challenges ahead, but this our community is what will guide us. Let us get organized, let us stand strong, and let us show them what we're truly made of." As the flickers of determination danced through the air, An unbreakable bond had been forged among them. This was a new beginning, a beautiful transformation, not just for the park, but for every heart pulled together in a common cause. With a sense of fulfillment, Mariah looked at her children, their faces lit with joy and hope. And as darkness fell, with stars twinkling overhead, she knew they would face tomorrow united, transformed, and ready. Now is the time to stand up for what matters. Don't let this moment pass. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your thoughts, reactions, and feelings about this incredible ending. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing up this channel through these actions. Let's make a difference together.